Hello and welcome to the session. My name is Akshay Kumar and I am working with School of Computer and Information Sciences at Indira Gandhi National Open University. Today I'll be discussing with you about the topic Gantt chart and network analysis. Gantt charts were designed by Henry L. Gantt in early 1900s with the basic purpose of maintaining control of production. Linear calendar on which time is scheduled along with one axis and activity of work is indicated on the another axis. So this is something which is typically the structure of a Gantt chart is, where it is linear and it has one particular axis on time and another axis about the activity. It is one of the widely used technique of scheduling of various activities of a project. So this technique has been used quite often in many different projects and basically scheduling kind of operation, whether the project has been scheduled properly or not, whether the activities are going on as per the proper schedule or not. So all these things are covered with the help of a Gantt chart. So how they look like? Let us first look at the Gantt chart and let us thereafter discuss about various aspects like how to create it, what are various things on a Gantt chart and so on and so forth. Well, the diagram shows a Gantt chart to you, right? Onto the left you can see activity or tasks, and those tasks are planning, analysis, design and implementation. For a real project they may be entirely different, right? However, we have just, for the sake of completeness or showing you, we have just selected 4 tasks onto the vertical side. Now on the horizontal side, what you see, weeks are mentioned. So what you see over there, 1, 2, 3 up to 9. So this particular project in total is to be completed in a span of 9 weeks, right? Now, how those activities are scheduled? The planning activity is scheduled over the week 1, 2 and week 3. The analysis activity once again is scheduled for 3 weeks. Design activity is scheduled for 4 weeks and implementation activity is scheduled for 3 more weeks. But what you can see in this particular graph very clearly, that there are overlaps. The planning, after first 2 weeks of planning, what you are doing? You are scheduling 2 activities together. Planning is going on and along with it, analysis process starts. Similarly, design is also overlapping with the analysis a little bit. In a real situation, it may or may not happen depending on the project situation, right? And your team size and so many other factors which are there in the real project implementation situation. Basically the resources which you have for the project implementation, including cost and manpower. Okay, and then implementation, what we are showing is overlapping with the design, right? But what you can see, all these activities, if we sum them up, is around 13 weeks, but the overall project is to be completed in 9 weeks. So Gantt chart is basically giving you the scheduled activity of a particular project. Well, so what is a Gantt chart, right? As you have seen, it's a visual representation of tasks scheduled over time. So we have scheduled that is activities time, we have the scheduled activities and how they have been scheduled over period of time, over the weeks. Okay. The underlying concept of a Gantt chart is to map out which tasks can be done in parallel and which need to be done sequentially. In the case, the Gantt chart which we have shown to you, almost the entire, all the processes are being done parallelly, although partial parallel, right? So for the first 2 weeks, only planning is going on. But on the 3rd week, what you see, planning as well as analysis is going on. Similarly, on 4th week only analysis is going on, but on to the 5th week, then there are 2 activities, that is analysis and design. So you can map out, you can schedule how many parallel activities are going on sequentially. okay, whether they are going on parallelly or are they being done sequentially. Finally, the Gantt charts are used to explore the trade-off between time and resources for a project, right? So the idea is wherever you are slipping, right, you are trying to put more resources, and you are trying to see that your resources are as per the requirements of the project. Now, why Gantt charts are important? Well, they help in planning, scheduling, and allocation of all resources required for any project or program in a very systematic manner. So they are very, very important. Why? Because they are telling you this is the way our things are scheduled. So how various resources can be allocated. All right. In addition, they help in formulation of plan of action. Wherever more resources are required, if you are slipping somewhere, if you have underestimated some time, so you can always come back to your Gantt chart. You can change wherever the requirements are, or you may reallocate your resources as per the requirements of the project. Help in follow-up of progress and removal of bottlenecks through replanning. So this is precisely what I was referring to. It allows us to replan. Okay. There are many more importance associated with Gantt chart. It is a very useful way of showing that work is scheduled to be done on a specific day. We have shown week-wise, but it can be done day-wise also, right? So weekly schedule you can plan, daily schedule you can plan, and on that particular basis you come to know whether your project is running smoothly or not, you need more resources in what activity, and so on and so forth. Help you view the start and end dates of a project in one simple view. So how project is going through from the starting till the end, and where exactly you are and what stages you are, how you are performing in that particular project. All those things can be seen in a simple what we say sheet of the paper. It helps in simplifying complex projects, right? So by complexity always is controlled by breaking, right? So you are dividing the activities, like you are dividing the project into a number of activities, okay? And those activities are then used for, are checked up for various things, and complexity is reduced on that particular scale. Useful to keep tasks on track when there is a large team, right? So every team member knows what he or she has to do as per the requirements of the Gantt chart. Then there are a number of elements associated with Gantt chart, right? So the first one is the project management timelines and tasks are converted into horizontal bar chart. So horizontal bar, which we have shown in the diagram, are primarily showing the timelines of the tasks, right? So we have the tasks onto the horizontal bar, and it shows start and end dates of all these tasks, right, or activities, and it schedules and deadlines of all these tasks are also shown. In addition, nowadays the Gantt chart also show the task owner, who owns the task. This additional information can be built into the Gantt chart these days. Now, other elements of the Gantt charts are relationship and dependencies between the various activities. Now here the dependencies are not very direct. You cannot identify those dependencies very directly, although what you could see in the example which we have done, that over a period of time a person, there was an overlap, but can that activity be done after completion of first activity, or it can be, it need not be done. So all those dependencies are not particularly highlighted by the Gantt chart, but to some extent it highlights, but not completely, and that is one of the weakness of the Gantt chart. But on the other hand, some basic information is told about the relationships. Then various phases of the project, like what are different phases of the project are shown by the Gantt chart, and then completion stages, like at what point of time various activities will be completed. Now, how to prepare a Gantt chart? So if you want to prepare a Gantt chart, there are certain prerequisites for making the chart, and that is all of the individual tasks required to complete the project are to be identified. If you have not identified those tasks, you will be once again not in a position to schedule. You will not be able to make the Gantt chart properly. The second requirement happens to be that you need to estimate how long a particular task is going to take, and that is one of the critical factor, because it is, once again, the word here is estimate, and there are, or there can be, errors of estimation, right? So this is something, this is very ticklish, and that is why you require some experience while making when you try to make Gantt charts and so on and so forth, right? Then finally you need to know about dependency among the tasks, which you may not be knowing to the fullest detail, but some dependencies you should be knowing about, which parts are overlapping, which parts have to be sequentially done, and so on. Then collection of this information enables a project manager focus on the essential parts of the project and begin to establish a realistic time frame for completion. So that is the way when we are dealing with the Gantt charts, we try to create a very realistic way, and because these deadlines are very important when the cost is involved. With the more is the time, the more is the cost. So these deadlines are very important and have to be dealt with very carefully. Now, so how this Gantt chart development takes place? So it can be, the whole process can be divided into steps. In the step 1, you divide all the tasks required for a project into manageable components. Just like what we did planning, then we said analysis, then we said design, then we said implementation. Now, even each of those planning tasks could have been divided into doing the feasibility study. Even the feasibility task can be divided into finding the technical feasibility, finding the cost feasibility. All those kinds of things can be done. So a particular task can be divided into manageable components, and measurement of those components are important. So step 2, you decide who will be responsible for each task and delegate that particular task to the team. So that is delegation, like who will be responsible for what particular thing. Then at step 3, you try to identify the relationship between task and frame the timelines for the task. That is estimation part, which is very important. And finally, at step 4, you arrange different tasks in required sequence, right? So once you create that particular task in required sequence, what technically you have done, you have created the Gantt chart. However, the steps are not yet complete. Then at step 5, you display the task according to sequences along with the duration. So you put it onto the paper now. Then at step 6, you determine the requirements of resources for different stages. Then at step 7, you allocate resources among different tasks based on the availability. And at step 8, you predict the risks and problems along with the contingency plans associated with the Gantt chart. Once again, we have the Gantt chart. This example is available to you. So now you can once again see how much time or how much planning it takes to develop a Gantt chart. It requires, although the kind of resources and who does this particular activity, who will be responsible for what activity is not shown in this particular Gantt chart, but today's charts have that particular feature available in them. Now, one of the major drawbacks, as I told you, was as far as Gantt chart is concerned, that in general, it does not indicate the relationship between various activities. If multiple activities are related with each other, it is not going to be very clear, although diagram will indicate you that okay, there is some relationship, but not complete. Okay, it's hidden. So in order to overcome that particular situation, another technique was developed, and that particular technique is called network analysis. Now, network analysis is primarily meant to help you for designing, planning, coordinating and controlling the project completion. So basically scheduling and controlling. It helps in accomplishing the project economically within minimum available time and limited available resources. The objective are almost the same as we had for the Gantt chart, but over here you will have slightly more, a bit of more information which might be useful for project control. Different tasks involved in a project are arranged in a logical sequence and are formed as a network. So here you are going to create a network, and then you will be analyzing that particular network. So what does this network does? This is presented in the form of a diagram. So network diagram visually represents the relationship between all the tasks involved along with their costs. And the objective of network analysis is to reduce time, cost and conflicts, as well conflicts in terms of resource conflicts. Okay, and network analysis increases the effectiveness and efficiency of resource allocation. So this is another important component as far as network analysis is concerned. The efficiency has to be increased. Now, any project can consist of large number of events and activities. So when we are talking about a network diagram, there has to be a way of drawing a network diagram or network which can be analyzed, right? So a project it consists of large number of events and activities. So there will be events which will be having that you have completed a particular task. Okay, that's also an event. And activity is a work event which takes time. So for example, you are doing the feasibility analysis, so it is an activity which is ongoing activity. The work content is termed as activity and is represented by an arrow, while the event is shown by a circle. So this is the representation which we use for network diagram. Once again I repeat, it is the activity is shown with an arrow, it's a work activity, right? And the event is shown by a circle, right? So a completion of a particular event. An event is said to be completed only when all activities represented by arrows flowing into that event is completed. So, and you say that a particular event is completed when that means there has to be certain input, right? Some activity input to events and certain activity outputs from the event, right? So each event except starting and ending event will have at least one incoming and one outgoing activity, right? So this is how the network diagram, or these are some of the basic features of network diagram. Here is a event and activity. There are two events in this particular case, event I and event J, right? The event I happens to be the starting event, right? And since the arrow is starting, the activity is starting from event I, right? So it is the starting or called tail event, and there is a event J which is the completion of the activity, right? Or it is also called the head event. So this is how two nodes or two events can be related. So there are two events which are related or which have an activity between the two. So from one event, when a particular activity is performed, which takes some time, right? So what you move on to the another event, and that's how the whole thing flows. Well, the interesting facts about this network diagram is that the starting event has only outgoing activity, while the ending event has only incoming activity. In addition, the beginning of an activity is, as I said, called tail event, while the completion of an activity is called the head event, which are denoted as ith and jth event respectively. So I'll call it, the time of this will be called ti, j. In any project network diagram, time always flows from left to right. The subsequent activities can begin only when a tail event is completed, or an event which basically is completed, then only the next event is going to be fired. Okay. And the activities which require no time and efforts are termed as dummy activity. Many a times we use dummy activity to show a relationship between events, and that particular thing cannot be shown by the Gantt chart. Well, there are several techniques of network analysis, and two of those popular techniques are PERT and CPM. Let's discuss about each one of them briefly. Now, PERT basically stands for Program Evaluation and Review Technique. It is used for projects where the time required or needed to complete different activities are not known. Now, that means you got to estimate the time, right? So, for each activity, we got to estimate, like if activity let's say 1 to 2, like if from event 1 to 2, event 2, that activity may take, let's say 10 days or 2 days or 3 days based on our experiences, and there are certain thumb rules for computation of these activities. Based on the estimated time required to complete the task, these activities or the time of the activity is computed. Analyze the network by computing 3 timelines for each task in the network. So we use 3 timelines primarily: the shortest possible time, the longest possible time, and the third is the most likely time. So the 3 timelines are the shortest possible time, the longest possible time, and the most likely time. Now here is an example of a PERT chart. PERT stands for Program Evaluation and Review Technique. It is used for the projects where the time required or needed to complete different activities of the projects are not known. Now if that is the case, how we are going to compute the time estimates, because they are very, very important, right? Because every activity takes some time, but how much time it is going to take is not known to us. Well, to do so in PERT, to analyze this particular the network by computing 3 timelines for each task in the network. The shortest possible time, like there are certain places where we say, okay, minimum it may take 2 days. Okay, the longest possible time, maximum it may go on to 5 days. Okay, and most likely it is going to take 3 days. So these 3 estimates can be used for computation of estimation of time required to complete an activity. So this is a very interesting kind of a scenario where you compute these particular things. Okay, now this is a typical example of PERT chart, and what those estimations actually, after the estimation there is a formula which is given in your block. So that formula is used to measure the time of estimate the time of activity. So you can see there are events. The first event is in a almost ellipse 1, and there is an arrow, so that shows an activity, and below the arrow the time taken for this particular activity is shown as 4. So from event 1 to event 2, right, the time taken is 4. Similarly, from event 2 to event 3, the time taken is 5. right? Now this time can be in weeks or days depending on whatever time estimation we have used. Now there are two more terms, E and L over here, right? Their meaning is earliest completion and latest completion time. But we are not going to talk about them right now, because in the next session we will be discussing about how to compute these time. Over here the purpose is to show you the diagram, and there is a dummy activity what we were discussing, okay, from 5 to 4. It is shown with the dotted line. So there is a dummy activity also in this particular chart. Okay, now what are the advantages of PERT chart? It serves as a base for planning activities. Okay, so you can plan, you can do, you can think how exactly those activities will be planned, how they will be completed, how they will be scheduled then. It helps in deciding the best possible resource utilization method. So how the resources should be utilized so that all activities get completed in time. It supports the identification of the activities with slack time. So if there is some slack time, how it can be utilized in the best possible way. In what activity we are getting the slack time, that also is predicted by the PERT and CPM. Start and end dates of the activity of a specific project is determined through PERT, and it helps in identifying the critical path activities. Now critical path is going to be very important, because this is something which we will be discussing a little bit later. Well, are there any disadvantages of PERT? There are. And the first one is that estimation of activity time is a very subjective activity, and it may lead to incorrect results. PERT is an expensive and more complex kind of this project review technique, and underestimation of activity time sometimes in PERT can lead to differences in critical path, and that can actually, as we were talking about the advantages of PERT was that it optimizes the resource utilization. Now that optimization, then it will not be complete. There is another method which is called critical path method, CPM, right? This critical path method is the largest path in the project management, which always provide minimum time taken for completion of the project. So this critical path is determined, it may be determined in the network, whatever network you have designed. In that network, the critical path is determined. How is it determined? Well, you have to wait for the next session to know about how it is determined. But right now, there is in the network, one of the path is going to be really critical. Okay, and it provides the minimum time taken for completion of the project. It is used for projects where the time needed for completion of project is already known. So critical path method is slightly different from PERT in the sense that here the time of activities may not be estimated. It need not be estimated completely. Some of those estimates are already known to us. So that is something which you really need to consider. So if you have time, that is time of activities available to you, then CPM is definitely a part of it. But these days, both these CPM and PERT are used in a single network diagram. They are used. Time consumed by activities are described deterministically as far as CPM is concerned. Now we have shown the similar diagram what we have shown for the PERT, except that there is going to be just one path which we might need to determine, which basically takes the minimum time to complete, right? In fact, the maximum, we can call it maximum in this particular case. But for example, 1 to 2, then 2 to 5, right? 5 to 4, 4 to 6, and 6 to 7. That is going to be turning out to be the path which is going to take exactly 23 time units. It may be weeks or years or days, whatever it is, to complete this particular project. So it is very important in this aspect. The CPM is, once again, it's a critical path of project is established by identifying the critical activity of the project, and CPM manages both time and cost of the project. Okay, so as far as time, you take it time or cost, both are actually one and the same thing, technically speaking, right? The highlights the activity which are run in parallel to each other. So this basically gives you an opportunity to highlight activities which are run parallel with each other, and even the resource allocation is basically you can determine through CPM. Advantages of CPM is effective in project management, identifying the most critical element of the project, helps in optimizing by determining the project duration, right, and provides determination of dependencies which help in scheduling of individual activities, right. So there are certain disadvantages also associated with CPM, and the first disadvantage is difficult to estimate the completion time of an activity as far as CPM is concerned. In this also sometimes it is difficult, and critical path needs to be computed or calculated precisely, and for bigger projects CPM method can be complicated. It can become very complicated within itself. So in a nutshell, what we have discussed today, we started with discussing about the importance of Gantt chart and what are the various components of Gantt chart and how it can be drawn. Then we followed it up by discussing about the PERT and CPM, which are the two techniques which we use in the network analysis, right? PERT we primarily used as review technique, program evaluation and review technique, whereas in CPM we find the critical path for which of completion of a particular project. So I think you must have enjoyed this particular session. In next session we will be doing some more things related to PERT and CPM. So for the time being, bye for today.